Hey everybody, today's video is going to be about testing our test equipment. I have these water hardness test strips that I bought, and I've always been a little suspicious that they did not work properly. I've always had sort of questionable results where I've thought the water should be, it never really turned out to be. And so today I tried doing a little testing to sort of see how accurate they were, and I really wasn't getting a whole lot of change at all. So I decided to do a fairly extreme test to see if they do anything. And I found out that they do not. And so I'm going to show you what I did and demonstrate that they do nothing at all. And while we're at it, I grabbed my API 5-in-1 test strips. These do have a water hardness test on them, and so we are going to do this one live. I haven't tested these yet, so we're going to see if we actually get any change or how appropriate the change is on the API test kit live in this video. But first, the first thing that threw me about these, what are these called? Just Filter water hardness test strips, is that the lowest possible degree of hardness is sort of a olive green color, and yet the test strips themselves start out yellow. So they should, in theory, change color no matter how hard or soft the water is, and yet I've never really seen a change in color at all. Hard, soft, or nothing. It just stays that sort of yellow color. So what we've got here, the test we're going to do is, this is my RO water. We are going to take a baseline and get the total dissolved solids on it so we can see exactly what we're dealing with. Now keep in mind this is RO, not RODI, so there will be a little bit of dissolved solids left over in it, but not a whole lot, and honestly it doesn't really matter. We are just trying to establish a baseline so we can go from there. So I will put a hold on it. Hopefully you'll be able to see this through all the glare. That is 15 parts per million. I know it may look like 19 on camera, but that's 15 parts per million, if you can see that. So that's what we're starting with. Again, not pure water, but it's pretty close. It's certainly close enough to indicate we know there's zero hardness in it. There's going to be no indication of hardness whatsoever in this at all. So you're supposed to put it in there for 1 to 2 seconds, and then we let it sit for 1 minute, and we will supposedly see some sort of change. And again, the softest level that we are supposed to be able to see is going to be this sort of olive drab sort of green color. And yet every time I've ever taken one of these tests, I've waited and I've waited and I've waited, and you never see any change in color at all. It just sort of stays that yellow color. So let's try the API test. I'm sure it's just going to show us no hardness at all. We won't get any color change because these strips, based on their color marking, no color change at all is going to be what indicates very, very soft water. We're looking at that blue one on the very bottom, and it should just stay that color blue, and that will indicate zero hardness in the water, and that's what I'm expecting to happen. We can have a look real quick. We should have pretty much zero everything. We've got 0 on the nitrate. We've got 0 on the nitrite. The pH is, you know, between 6 and 6.5, right where I would expect that to be. The carbonate hardness is 0, right where I would expect that to be. And we are still not seeing a change in the color on the general hardness. It's still that sort of sky blue color that we have all the way down here at the bottom. So the API is not showing me anything I wasn't expecting to see. We're getting pretty much nothing across the board. Still zero color change on this. Again, even as soft can be, we're supposed to be that green color, and we're nothing, no color change. So alright, that's test strip number 1. Let's throw these away, get them out of the way so we don't confuse them. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add calcium and magnesium. This is basically pure liquid concentrated water hardness. This is just calcium and magnesium. There's no carbonates in it. It will not affect the pH in any way, but it is just calcium and magnesium. So we're going to put a big old squirt of it in there. To treat your water for your houseplants, to give you an idea how much we just put in there, you're supposed to put 3 to 5 milliliters in a gallon of water before you water your plants with this. And so we just put that big old squirt in there. We'll give it a swirl around I promise you there's nothing on my fingers. I didn't just sneak something in there. Either way, it doesn't matter because we're still going to have a look at the total dissolved solids to just see what we brought it up to. Now, keep in mind, I often talk about how total dissolved solids can be a deceptive number. You don't really know what those solids are, and it could be anything dissolved in the water. In this case, we know exactly what we just put in the water. We put calcium and magnesium in the water. There's no additional additives. So any increase in TDS that we see is going to be a 100% calcium and magnesium increase. Well, there's a little bit of nitrogen in there too, and I'm actually kind of wondering if that's going to affect the API test, because that does have a nitrate test on it, and we'll see if that has an impact on it or not. It should. Alright, we're going to do a hold, and if you can see that, we are now at 709 parts per million. .709 parts per million. So that is out of control, over the top, liquid cement, rock hard water that you just could not imagine. That is a huge, huge amount of nothing but calcium and magnesium that we just added to the water. So we're going to see a nice, huge, massive change in that yellow color. No, we are not. It's not going to change at all. And that's going to prove that these strips do absolutely nothing. But what's going to happen with the API test kit? This is going to be the one that tells us whether these do anything or not and how accurate they should be. Now, we should get an off-the-chart color. It should change to some color that we've never even seen on this chart because of the amount of hardness we just put in there. And we should get a pretty hefty amount of nitrate in there as well because of the nitrogen compounds that are in here. If you will notice on this CalMag solution, on the bottom there it says 200. That 2 represents 2% nitrogen, or 2 parts nitrogen. I'm not sure how they work that, but that 2 is nitrogen. So it does have a nitrogen compound in there in addition to the calcium and magnesium, just a little booster on the plant food. So still not seeing any kind of change on this, still that yellow color. And yet, when we look at the API, we are, first of all, we are off the chart as far as the nitrate goes. Look how red that is. So I was right about the nitrate, and we have just proved that the API test kit is at least as accurate with that. We're looking at that top color, and again, this is just off the chart, dark red, beyond 200 parts per million. And if we look at the blue, we are also in this sort of purpley color that is off the charts beyond what their 180 parts per million is their highest color, and it's kind of the same color as that. It's probably just where it maxes out, but it does look a little bit darker than that. It looks a little bit more purpley than that to my eye, but it possibly that's just as dark a blue as we can possibly get with this chemical compound. So again, you know, if you're over that 180 parts per million, I think you'd have a hard time knowing it if you were using these API test kit. You might, again, we just saw that 709 parts per million, and yet if you look at this, you might walk away from that thinking you're closer to 180 or 200 parts per million because that color doesn't just keep changing and goes into some weird off-the-charts color like I was expecting it to. It's just sort of tops out at that blue. So that's interesting. But we did see a huge, huge off-the-chart spike with the nitrate, and nitrite is 0, pH did not change, carbonate hardness did not change, and then general hardness changed. And we still have a yellow strip on these Just Filter water hardness test strips. So don't waste your money on these Just Filters. They don't do anything at all, and when this video is over, I'm going to be throwing this bottle right in the trash. So thanks for watching. I hope that was informative. I hope that gave you an idea that it is always a good idea to check your test equipment. Just because it's brand new out of the box does not mean it's necessarily working properly, or it's accurate, or it's properly calibrated. It all just depends on what piece of equipment you're talking about, how you test it, how you use it, etc. But it's always a good idea just to double check, make sure you got a good accurate baseline, make sure you know what you're dealing with, and make sure you know how to properly read your tests and so on and so forth. We will be doing a video here in the fairly near future about these general hardness test kit, not necessarily the carbonate hardness, although we can cover that in the video, but I do want to talk about this API general hardness test kit because I find these very, very difficult to read. They seem to be accurate, but you really got to get your eye in, and you really got to know what you're looking at when you're reading it, because they're very difficult to read. The color change is subtle, to say the least. So look forward to that in an upcoming video. Make sure you're subscribed, that way you won't miss it. Don't forget, I do a live stream every Friday night and Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for watching this one. I hope that was enjoyable. Hope you learned something from that. Hope you took away the importance of testing your chest equipment. And I'll see you real soon in the next one.